Right. Welcome to the Pinstripers podcast, a podcast about pinstripers hosted by two pinstripers. I'm one of your hosts, Jack Fleming.
And I am your other host, Freddie Villa. And today we have the great Bob Behounek out of the Chicago area. He's a sign painter and pinstriper and all-around great guy. I did want to mention also before we get started that we did have a sponsor for today's episode. It was an anonymous sponsor, so I just want to say thank you very much for the help. We are asking $50 for sponsorship per episode. If anybody would like to sponsor, we would give you a shout out to your company, to your friends, to whoever you want. We would give you a shout out, and it would help us out tremendously. Jack, you got anything?
Yeah, I think we should probably say a thank you or a shout out there too to Alicia with Cherry Bomb Pinstriping, who's been running our Instagram page for us. So
yes, very much. Thank you
thanks
so
to
much.
her.
Yes. And thank you to all the listeners, everybody that's been giving us feedback and telling us that you're holding out and waiting for the next episode. We appreciate you so much because it really does push us to continue this podcast, and it's been really great to hear the positive feedback.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's enough of the business, Jack. Let's get started. What do you think?
Sounds good, man.
All right, so here is Bob Behounek.
Hi, Jack.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Oh, doing pretty good. About halfway through my day, so.
Oh, wow. I just started my day. The sun just came up here a little while ago, so I'm ready to roll,
It's been getting hot here in Texas, so I've been starting at about 4 a.m.
Really? Oh, yeah. Triple digits, I hear.
Yeah, we've been, I guess, getting close to 110 this week, so.
Wow. That would melt my Stabilos. No problem there.
Yeah, the air conditioner in my shop quits working around 11:30, so I only work a couple hours after that, and I'm done.
Wow. It's not that hot here. It's probably only about 80 degrees here, so.
Sounds nice.
I'm happy the sun is out, though. So.
Well, it's good to have you on the podcast here. Freddie and I just talked about it a little bit, and I guess I'm going to kind of lead the conversation today.
Okay.
Yeah, welcome, Bob. Welcome. We're happy to have you on.
Honored to be on the podcast with you guys. I really am.
Well, we appreciate it.
I guess a little background for the people that are listening. Both Freddie and I met you whenever we were up in Ohio at the American Stripe still with Steve.
Yes.
I thought that was kind of interesting because we sat there and ate breakfast with you and all, and I had no clue anything about you or anything, and I've followed you on Facebook and all since then, and you've got a really cool career history, I guess. So you're somebody we definitely wanted to have on.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been an interesting career. There's no doubt about that. The last 55 some years has been just an amazing journey for me. I just love what I do, and I never felt like I worked a day in my life.
That's
It's just been one fun day after the other. So
I'd like to add real fast just before Jack gets into it. I've only heard good things about you too, Bob.
Oh, good. Thanks. That's good to know. Yeah. Well, I'm helping everybody I can. That's for sure. Much as I can. So.
Yeah, I see that. Were you just at the Syracuse?
No, I did not attend that. I had never been. I don't think I've ever been to Syracuse in my life.
Really?
No. I've talked to Artie many times, but that's about it. Pardon me?
I thought I saw that you were there at that.
No. They. I think the money that they generate goes to the Ron McDonald House, just like the one that we do here in Chicago. And I probably made a comment on that because that was really a noble on them to do that. So.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think it's kind of interesting. Total side note. I was recently at the Children's Hospital that we have in Fort Worth, and they have a Ronald McDonald House there. And
Sure.
I thought it was really interesting because the Children's Hospital there is super colorful and big. And the Ronald McDonald House is like this small kind of apartment-looking complex that's brick with no other colors at all.
Really?
Not what I expected.
Well, the one here in Chicago is just kid friendly. There's paintings and all kind of kid artwork everywhere, and I've even been in there myself with my group doing a lot of artwork on the walls and all over the whole complex. Yeah, it's a totally different appearance. I think there's a children's hospital right near it, and there's also what do they want to call that? I don't even know what you would call that, but it's together. The Laurie's Children's Hospital and Ron McDonald House work hand in hand to make children's stays comfortable and fun for the rest of the family too, as well. So they decorate it that way, which is really neat. I mean, it's really neat to go over there and work and then have the kids watch you and just totally enamored with what you're doing with a brush. Fun. So
it's decorated on the outside too, then.
Mostly on the inside.
Okay, yeah. This one here might be. I don't know. I just, like I said, I drove by it and saw it. I would hope it is on the inside.
You should stop in and take a tour if you can. I'm sure they'll show you around.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're always great people.
Our panel jam that we do in Dallas goes to the Scottish Rite Children's Hospital. So that's.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Anytime you can help children and families of children and their welfare, it's good, especially at my age anymore. I want to give back and inspire another generation here somehow. So it's working. So I'm happy for that.
I guess maybe to do a quick plug or whatnot. What is the panel jam that you're a part of running?
This is called the Chicago Brushmasters. We have started this group up in 2007, and we're split off of the Milwaukee Pinstripe Legends. They and us are one big family. We're working in Milwaukee, and we're working in Chicago for the last 16 years, and we've raised $1.5 million since 2007 to help families stay close to their hospitalized children. I get choked up thinking about it. It's just I never thought one piece of artwork at a time that would happen, and I think God has blessed us since the beginning, and all the right things have happened. The right people have come into this group, and we've moved forward, raising a lot of money and helping a lot of people. And a lot of these people we never meet. We wouldn't meet maybe 95% of these people or more, but they stay there, and we have 3 rooms dedicated in our honor, 2 downtown and 1 in an outlying Ronald McDonald House on the south side. And our name is on that door. This is the people who raise money for that. So it's amazing, totally amazing, So everybody's real happy with us that way. So
that's one thing I think is really neat with, I guess, all the panel jams that you see that are throughout the country, and I assume outside of the country. What it is that artists within our community, pinstripers, sign painters, and so forth, are able to do and give back with such kind of I guess nowadays it's looked at as being kind of a niche community in a way, but.
Well, I think there's a certain part of it here that you're moving the art form forward, and there's never enough ways to do that, especially with younger people and families. Younger families, they don't have any idea sometimes that a lot of this stuff is actually done by hand. Their world is all digital. Their world is all printed. And when they see us and they come out and they get involved, they're just totally enamored with the fact that these people can hold a little brush and paint letters and pinstripe and all the beautiful designs and all that. So you gain more fans, you gain more respect from a group of people that never would have seen you before. That way, and that just perpetuates itself down the road to help move this art form in different genres and different groups of people. So it's working. We're happy for that.
Yeah, the work that I see that comes out of, that I've seen come out of the one that are in Chicago is fantastic.
Yeah, we started off with a lot of sign painters, sign people, sign designer type people. Our whole board of directors was that. Now the last 16 years, we've some retired, some moved away. We don't have as many of the sign people anymore, so they've been taking spots with pinstriping people that are just solely pinstripers, and we've blended these two groups together to continue this mission forward. And it doesn't matter whether you're a pinstriper or you're a sign guy; the same things are happening, and the same cool results are being produced with this group. And it's amazing. I get just so fired up by the time the whole thing's over with. I have enough inspiration to last for months afterwards. Yeah.
So you're saying your group there started mostly as sign painters then?
Yeah, we was a whole bunch of us that went to sign school together. We're in an apprenticeship program. There's a lot of other people that were in our group that worked the streets, and we're all friends around here, competitors at one time and friends now. And we just got together one day and called the groups, and we sat down. We tried to figure out how we could run an event like this. But the core group was sign painters from my apprentice program, and we were told by the show promoters to, you guys are the sign guys, you guys are the display artists, make your event the best you can make it. Design it and paint it and set it up, and that was our mission. We did that, and when you came to the show, you came there, and there's our huge logo. It's 8 foot long. It's all hand carved, 23 karat gold leafed, and it's like people look at it and go, "Whoa, well, how did you do that?" Well, that's our industry. That's what we do, and this is how we're promoting ourselves. And it's just one year after another, people got used to seeing that. And they come and they know as soon as they see our Brushmaster logo, you want to go watch these guys. These guys are phenomenal. It's a thing that just keeps, I could say, perpetuating itself bigger and bigger and bigger. With
Bob, did we lose Bob?
I think so.
All right, let me just check here. Maybe he pushed a button. Maybe I didn't push anything.
I didn't touch anything.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Hello?
I didn't push anything. I know that.
I can hear both of you now.
Yeah, we got you back. Well,
okay.
I'm trying to troubleshoot, like, what could have happened, And we were just getting into your story. While I was sitting here, I was listening intently.
I forgot where I left off.
I
think on my end you dropped out. You were talking about the sign that you have and the presence that you guys make at.
Yeah, right. We realize in the sign industry, if the first impression you make is the sign that you have in front of your business or on your truck. Mm-hmm. So we use that premise to build our own brand at the World of Wheels show here in Chicago at McCormick Place, and we hit the mark. I mean, we were told by the promoters in the World of Wheels, they run all these shows across North America. They said, you guys hit just what we wanted, and that's hard to design something that is perfect and it's going to work and have people understand what you're trying to do and give that special look to it. And with all our knowledge and all our experience in the industry, we did what they wanted to do, and it just made us very successful from that point forward. And I was just really happy how that all went.
May I ask?
I never did it before. So.
May I ask, was there submissions for the design, or how did that go about to be actually finalized?
We sat around as a group and just kind of brainstormed the whole idea. And I drew down some sketches. A couple other guys drew some sketches, and I came up with this script. And we came up with like a little plate that you would have on a side of a car. Like a logo of some kind, and it went from one thing to another. We kind of fine-tuned it, and I drew a finished drawing and I believe I used a Ruby-Lit to put it in a computer, and I gave it to a couple of people that are real good with computers, and they made a finished rendering of it, and then we put it into motion and made a 3-dimensional 8-foot logo to put up on the stage from that point. It took a long time. It took us about 8 months to build it. It was very, very labor intensive. We must have had 6 or 7 people working on it just to get it done. And then we all got together at a shop, and we gold leafed the whole thing one day on a Saturday, and that was a lot of fun. Gold leaf is really an interesting art form to work with. And once you got it leafed and you start burnishing and all that, there's nothing like gold, 23 karat gold. And it was just, we all stood there and looked at it and go, people are going to love this, So, yeah. So we've really had a great time all these years doing what we're doing. And last year we broke a record. We raised $107,000 in 2.5 days.
Wow.
At the show. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we had a Ratfink reunion too at the same time, and that brought in a lot of different artists from a lot of different places around the country that specialize in Ratfink art. And everybody loves to buy Ratfink art, so that probably had something to do with our success last year. But nonetheless, it was fun. It was a blast. So,
So was the Ratfink part of that, the Ratfink reunion part, a 1-year thing then, or?
Yes, it was. I heard from the World of Wheels people that they wanted to bring in and have a Ratfink reunion in this show, and that's just up our alley because that's what we do, custom culture art. So we just kind of made huge banners and decorated everything to the hilt. Had big Ratfinks everywhere and hats and all kinds of stuff. And people walked into our area and they knew right away that these people are cool because they got Ratfink stuff everywhere.
That's awesome.
So we've gained some new people, some new show patrons just coming to the show and seeing us there. Now they'll probably come back and want more now. So that's all good. It's all positive,
That's really cool. About how many artists did you guys have at it then?
It depends. Every day, Friday and Saturday, Sunday, we have different numbers, but altogether, we probably got 100 artists coming and going and all that. And they bring artwork in. Some people just stop by and drop stuff off. Some people send me artwork from different parts of the country just to have a piece in the show and all that. So it's a compilation of a lot of different people in a lot of different places and all types of different genres of art. And it's an art show, actually. It's 3-dimensional pieces. It's flat panels. It's we even letter race cars there and commercial vehicles at our show just to show people how things were actually done back in the day. And that amazes people. They'd stand there, especially younger people, and they're enamored. They cannot believe it's not rap. It's painted,
Right.
But that's part of our mission to show people that we are still out there and we still do this type of work. And again, that has brought on a whole new fan base for us across all Chicagoland here in the Midwest. So it's been fun, that way.
So are you actually located in Chicago then, or suburbs, or?
I'm in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, not too far. I'm about 6 miles from the lake. And my whole area here is just really there's just sign painting and pinstriping everywhere. I don't know of any other city that I've ever been to in the United States that has this much custom culture art on the street everywhere. And it's less than it was back in the 60s and 70s and the 80s. But nonetheless, it's still being done by a lot of people. And everywhere I drive, I see a pinstripe truck, a pinstripe car, a pinstripe race car, hot rod. They're all over. They're everywhere. And I'm thinking that all these people with our Brushmaster group has perpetuated this even further with the younger crowds. And they understand what it is now, and they want it. They're looking for it. I want my motorcycle pinstripe. I want my car, my truck. And we're all busy. All of us are busy doing a lot of work these days. And that was one thing that I was very, very thankful for, that we were able to promote that within our Brushmaster group and keep that alive, for now. So it's good.
I always feel like people buy into what they see and what they're surrounded by. And
Right.
I guess if you're keeping it alive and you're educating people and you're putting it out there and all, more people are going to see it and it's going to keep it around. Unfortunately, there's so many places where it seems like that's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, I know. I went to a family reunion in Los Angeles here about 4 years ago, and I drove around all over the area, and I think I saw one car that had pinstriping on it. And that was it. And I don't know if I wasn't there at the right time or I didn't go in the right place, but I was very surprised having the climate they have out there. I didn't see anything like they have around here in Chicago, so I'm not really sure. I don't know a lot of the people out there, so I don't know what their climate is as far as the artwork goes. So I can't really say for sure, but I know here in this city, in this area, it's everywhere, and it's so cool. So cool.
It kind of makes me curious because I see a little bit here, but I go to car shows all the time, and that's mostly where I see anything. Sign painting wise, if I go into some of the bigger cities and stuff. But I'm wondering, like, and I'm actually asking Freddie here, do you see any of that where you're at, or?
Sign painting, I do see signs quite a bit. We do have a couple of sign painters that were in town, and a fellow by the name of Paul, I cannot remember his last name, but he did a lot of signs for the city. It's really nice. He left a quite a legacy of artwork around here, but pinstriping, it's rare. Honestly, it's very rare. I've actually seen, if I see some of the stuff, it's mostly from Mikey Aries. He's on the east coast of Florida. Yeah. Another fella by the name of Chris Palmatier. He's in Brandon, so he's a couple towns away. But generally, I see those two guys' stuff. I have one time seen what looked to be, I think there's a fellow by the name of Tony Perez that does these small Southwest style little pictures at the end of pinstriping. It's like a canyon with some cactus, and I saw the truck in passing, and I wanted to chase it down. I couldn't, I barely saw it, and I was like, I want to see it, but no, not much, to be honest, not much.
Yeah, just curious there.
Yeah. It's surprising to hear that in Chicago there's so much to see like that. I even work around a bunch of tractors because I work at a warehouse, and I'm always looking and like peeking at the tractors and seeing, is that hand painted or not? And generally, it's not.
Yeah, that's what's going on these days, though, too. And I think most of the painted vehicles right now and hand lettering are specialized antique vehicles or just an old school tractor owner that wants it painted by hand. There's some of those out there too, and that's good. I'm glad that is still happening that way. But normally it's not. Everybody do get the sticker, they put it on, and they just hit the road and they're gone. And it is what it is. But you got a real expensive truck like that, and it just kind of looks like, gee, they didn't put the icing on the cake this time. Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they put the extra decoration on there somewhere to make it special? And I guess people, maybe they're leased trucks. Maybe they can't do that. I don't know. I don't know what the actual reason is, but I do see some still around here like that. They're painted. So I'm glad for that,
I don't see hardly any at all ever around here.
My assumption, Bob, is that they just don't know it's still available to them. So they get what's available to them was probably a sticker, and it never really fits right. It's like something that really wasn't made for the truck, and it is unfortunate to see.
Well, they probably just ordered online, or they go somewhere and they say, I just want a white whatever, and they print it out and stick it on, and whatever the color truck is, they don't realize you have to contrast colors and make it look right, and they just don't care, Yeah. But they're probably doing what everybody else does in their area, and that's the way it is. But I know that there's other places in the country, like I know the East Coast near New York. There's a lot of sign painters over there, pinstripers, that are doing trucks. That's another area that is just probably even more so than here in Chicago. From what I've seen in Signcraft magazine and different things on social media, there's a lot of that going on out there. And
yeah, that seems like that's where I see most of it.
Yeah, but the rest of the country, not so much. And there used to be a lot of guys in Canada too that did a lot of truck lettering and striping and all that. But I don't see I don't see that anymore. I don't know if that's really something that happened 20, 30 years ago, or I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't been up there in a while, so can't say. But, you know.
Well, I'm kind of, and then for the listeners here a little bit, we're talking about trucks and all. Your career, I guess I'm assuming here, has mostly been sign painting. Has it been like what fields of sign painting have you mostly been involved in?
Well, I started off with an apprenticeship program, 5-year program with the local 830 sign and pictorial and display workers. And we go through a very comprehensive program. And our instructor was Ken Millar. I don't know if you're familiar with that name. He just passed away here. He just passed away here about 7 or 8 months ago, and he was our instructor. He was one of the head designers at Beverly Sign Company in Chicago. That's a company that just modernized sign painting back in the 50s and 60s, and he taught us from the ground up a good foundation of how to do hand lettering, and for the first 2 years we didn't even touch a brush. We basically drew type and modified type, and he was actually teaching us how to be sketch artists. So we would wind up in whatever companies we worked for doing the design work for billboards and advertising, outdoor advertising. Didn't realize it at the time. I thought, well, I want to paint, but here, no, you got to draw this first. Muscle memory. And I look back at it now, and I see why he did this. He even told us that, because he says 30, 40, 50 years from now, you're going to thank me. And I did thank him, because now people are looking for something that was hand-drawn. Well, I know how to do that now. I know how to draw type. I know how to modify type. I know how to design with type. And this is what we were taught. So going into the actual sign business, that's basically what I did. I worked at a commercial sign shop for my whole career. One company in particular for about 35 years, and I was their sketch artist. I was the man that was doing the design work for all their outdoor advertising and all their trucks and everything. And I did a lot of sign painting as well. That was another thing that once we got into that part of the apprentice program, then we all went nuts, because we were designing these signs. Now we were hand painting them and making actual small renderings of these designs we were coming up with. And we were all competing against one another at school, trying to outdo one another. And I could not wait to get to school. I could not wait to do the next project. I could not wait to talk to the teacher, to Mr. Millar, and ask him questions. Then he told me what to do, and he was a kind of instructor that would tell you the right thing to do. And then he'd let you make the mistakes, and then he'd ask you, well, what did you do and why did you do this? And then you'd have to tell him that. And then you yourself realized you made a mistake and you tried to correct it. He didn't tell you it was wrong. He just made you think about it. He set us all up to be very successful at what we did. And there's a whole bunch of us here in Chicago that went through this program that could tell you the same thing. It was just an amazing journey. And some of the guys that went through the school with us didn't even realize what they were getting. And now we're sitting back and look at it, and we're just completely thankful for all that effort we put into drawing all those lettering and listening to what he had to tell us and teach us from his experience in the industry. So that's where it started for me. And then I basically just worked in the design department and all those years. And then here's an interesting thing with the pinstriping. I don't know how people did it around other parts of the country, but being involved in the sign industry, you're not even thinking about pinstriping. But I seen some people here in Chicago back in the late 60s. I shouldn't say people, I would say vehicles that were pinstriped, hot rods, race cars. And I looked at it, I thought, that art form is so cool. Wonder how they do that. So started asking questions, and people in the sign industry, and my mentors and stuff, they had no clue about the pinstripe, and they were just sign people. So I started reaching out to sign supply houses and found out if they had special brushes for it. And lo and behold, we found some Grumbacher plastic-handled, black-haired pinstriping brushes that you couldn't turn, just for straight lines. So I bought some, and I found some MAC brushes, and then at the school, at our apprentice program, before we started class, there was like 3 or 4 of us that were interested in pinstriping. So we helped one another learn pinstriping by just practicing what we've seen on TV or see on the street or wherever we saw the pinstriping on cars and stuff. And we got pretty good at it, and we realized that down the road that there wasn't a lot of sign painters that pinstriped as well. There was a group of people that pinstriped things, and there was a group of people that painted signs. So what we wound up doing in the early 70s, we blended those 2 art forms together with a whole bunch of us here, and we could letter a truck or a car and then pinstripe it all at the same time. So it rolled out of the shop, completely done. It's because before that, you would take your car to get pinstriped somewhere, and then you'd have to take it somewhere to get lettered. 2 different places, and the truck would be laid up for 2 days, 3 days, whatever it was. So blending all that together and forming a complete project like that was what your clients wanted. They didn't want to lay up their truck too long. So wound up with a lot of pinstriping going into the open areas of a truck, that maybe say the hood, the trunk, or a tailgate rather, or a door handle or something. Just add little details to a truck that was lettered, but not take away from the lettering. You put a pinstriping in sort of a subtle color, so it doesn't really stand out a lot when you walk up to it and go, "Oh, this is so-and-so's truck. Oh, but look, there's this decorations by the door handle on the hood. That's cool. I want one like that." You come in, you do another one. So this was all going on in the early 70s. And all these years since then, it just kept getting more and more. And now, like I said before, you'll see a lettered truck that's just pinstriped everywhere. It's taken that long for it to get to this point, but it's not gone away. So that's basically what happened to me in my career. I love sign painting. I really love designing things. That's my forte. But
I'm curious. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, what I wound up doing was, when I do my pinstriping, I use the same design principles and color principles I use in sign design with my pinstriping. So that's why it may look a little bit different than other people. I don't know, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Well, on that point, no, that's one of the things that I find really attractive about your work, because it does have a little bit of a different sense of design to it. And I studied design in school, and I think that's what I pick up on it. But I was curious, because you mentioned that you worked for a design department for like 35 years. Were you doing this on the side or at a different time period, or?
Well, what usually would happen was after I would design the sign, or actually for stuff on trucks or a car, the guys in the shop would take the sketch and make a pattern from it, and they'd put the lettering on, or I would do it sometimes depending on how busy we were, and then they'd pull me out of the office and I'd go do the pinstripe, and then the car or truck would just leave after it was dry. That's how that usually worked. So I'm still doing that. I still go back there and I still pinstripe, because they still need me to do that. So they do the lettering. A lot of times it's vinyl, sometimes it's paint, sometimes gold leaf, and I'll just go pinstripe it and complete the job. I don't ever want to quit. It's too much fun.
Was this a company then that's pretty general and broad, doing stuff for stores and stuff as well, or was it mostly transportation oriented, or?
Well, at the time, I'd say in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it was, we did everything. We did electric signs, we did wood signs, we did sandblasted signs, we probably did 400 to 500 trucks a year. So there was a lot of commercial work being done, small hand lettering signs and that type of thing. And it was everything that you could possibly need for advertising. we did there. So it's kind of still the same way. There's still a lot of work being done that way. Probably more electric now than before. But there's a lot of wraps being done now. There's a lot of vinyl being done now, But anytime anything needs to be painted, I usually get involved in some way or another, either with the design or helping out somehow, So it's keeping me attached and to the trade, no doubt,
So were you technically retired then and then come in, or?
I'm semi-retired, basically. Yeah. Or I'm just tired. I'm not sure.
You're not retired. You're retired.
I'm just tired. Yeah. No, but I mean, I still get all fired up over this stuff. I really love doing it. It's there's a lot of design work out there because people want to see it done by hand. They don't want the computer, the sterile font look. So here goes back to my days at the apprentice program, learning how to do this. This is even bigger now than it was back 40 years ago because of that. So,
and I'd like to chime in real fast, Bob. I think it really shows that you're still passionate for this stuff. I think your artwork and your lettering and your pinstriping has a real contemporary feel. Like it feels modern. Like all the stuff that I see come out of you, even the little kind of sayings that you write down sometimes, like the little daily sayings. It all looks very modern, very cool. I mean, to me, it looks super cool. And it always catches my eye, yes.
I think a lot of that goes back to the early design principles that I learned back at apprentice program. It's like industrial design. Let's say you see a 1970 Chevelle SS. Mm-hmm. That car was designed in the late 60s, but today you look at it, it still looks that way.
Yep.
It still looks good. Yep. Same principles that we go into industrial design, I think, go into sign design and even pinstriping design. It never gets old. You can do it, and 30 years from now, you look at it and it looks great. I've always taken my design process and keep molting it into something else. I get inspired by a lot of things that I see. And in the sign industry, which translates into the pinstriping industry, and I kind of keep going back and forth and using all that inspiration I see to make new designs with pinstriping, go different directions, different shapes, and all that stuff. A lot of the shapes I use in pinstriping are shapes from letters.
I can see,
believe it or not.
Yeah, I can.
And scripts. And scripts.
Yeah, absolutely. And even you said the word movement, and that's really what stands out to me. Like there's tons of movement in your work, even if it's just a simple thing. It's like it's got a legit movement to it,
Right. And I think that a lot of the younger generation, they want to do lettering, they want to learn how, but they don't want to learn it the way that you have to learn it to be able to be successful at it. And I get a lot of people that contact me and they want to learn everything I know in 2 weeks or less.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding. I've had a lot of people ask me that. So that same parameter, and I thought, no. I'm 72 years old. I'm still learning. You never stop learning. You cannot just figure you're going to teach, get taught to do something, and in 2 weeks or less, and you're going to be set. It's not going to happen, that way. So I don't know if these younger people that after I tell them that, they just kind of walk away, or they're out there trying to do something or not. I don't know, but that's what I tell them.
I had, gosh, I got so many questions. You mentioned the Beverly Sign Company a little while back, and the fact that your instructor had worked there. I remember seeing not too long ago, I want to say within probably the past month, there's a project that you were working on that dealt with sketches from there. Or?
Yeah, I feel very blessed here. I had a good friend of mine that worked with my mentor at Beverly Sign Company, Danny Collier. He's a great sign painter, stock car driver, and everything. And he called me up one day. It's probably about 25 years ago, and he said, "I have a whole bunch of colored rendered sketches from the Beverly Sign Company, and I don't know what to do with them. Do you want them?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. Give me your address. I'll be right over." And I went to pick them up. and I brought them home. And then about 2 days later, I got a call from another fellow I know here in Chicago, and he said, I have 2 boxes of drawings from the Beverly Sign Company. I'm going to throw them away, but do you want them? Okay, so here I am. I've, in a matter of 2 days, I've had probably 400 to 500 sketches from this company. These are sketches that feel like what they call the Dead Sea Scrolls. You know what I'm saying? So here I am. I got all these colored and the pencil line drawings, and I think, okay, what am I going to do with these? I mean, I love looking at them myself, but they need to be seen by other people. And back in the day, 25, 30 years ago, no one was really interested in seeing these. I talked to the Chicago Historical Society. I talked to all these Preservation Chicago people. I talked to all these different people here in the city. And I thought, this is what I have. This is a history of Chicago in hand-drawn artwork. Nobody was interested. Nobody. So I put them in a box and forgot them for a while. And I got talking to Todd Swarmstead at the American Sign Museum in Cincinnati. And we talked through the whole process, and we decided to bring in former employees from Beverly Sign Company and have a reunion, so to speak, at Danny Collier's shop here in the South Side of Chicago. So they all came up, they brought their cameras, they brought their video equipment, and I brought in all these different employees from the company. We got together and we talked about this, and we had a lot of people there that day. A lot of people, sign people in Chicago, all came because they were interested. Okay, so once that was over with, Todd took a whole bunch of the colored renderings back to the museum in Cincinnati. And now there's a Beverly Sign Company wing in the museum with all these sign designs that he took from that reunion we had. And they're on display there, along with some reverse glass gilded pieces of artwork that the Beverly artists did that were in the office of Beverly Sign Company. So that's all there. It's not a real big wing, but it's nonetheless, it's telling people the history of the company. So I had all these other sketches, probably another 300 some sketches or so that I had in a box and all this. And I tried to get a book printed. Ken Millar himself tried with different people to try to produce this book for him. And one day he said to me, listen, I'm going to give all this to you, and you try to keep this going somehow. Try to make this book happen. So 20-some years goes by, and all of a sudden I get a call from these 2 sign painter friends of mine, Kelsey and Andrew McLennan in Chicago. They said to me, there's a building here in Chicago near Wrigley Field. They just took the siding off of it. And underneath the siding is this wood slatted billboard on both sides of this old building. And they're going to tear this building down in 30 days. I think, oh my gosh. So I drove over there right away. And I wanted to see exactly what was there. And it was one sign on one side of the building was painted in 1929, and the other side of the building was painted in probably in the early 30s. And the name on the sign underneath who did the sign was a name that was Briggs. And Jack Briggs, as far as we could tell anyway, he was one of the people that started Beverly Sign Company. So what happened was they had all the people in that area around Wrigley Field walking by this building. They could not believe these old signs on this building were just beautiful. They were like brand new. So the TV got involved. 2 or 3 TV stations got involved. They were there taking pictures. We went over there and did interviews with us. We were on TV telling people about Beverly Sign Company and these signs and the history behind it all. They thought these were from the 50s, but they were like 20, 25 years even older than that. So anyway, what happened was it created a huge buzz in the north side of Chicago. So the Beverly area of Chicago is on the south side. They heard about it, and there's a historical society there. They got involved, and one thing led to another. And all of a sudden now we thought, now is the perfect time to try to make this book. So Kelsey and Andrew McLennan contacted some people here in Chicago, and a lot of people were interested. So now we're on the process now using a lot of these sketches in this. It's going to be a sketchbook, basically. Like, I don't know if you've seen the sketchbook that Noah Weber put out.
I've seen the advertisements for it. I want a copy of it, but haven't been able to.
I mean, it's gorgeous. It's all hand drawn. And Noah Weber, this is an interesting thing. Noah Weber was in the sign school here in Chicago with me.
Oh wow!
With Ken Millar, he was there, and so he knows the process of hand drawn letters and alphabets and design and all that. So anyway, he got involved here a little bit too. I think he's going to do the preface in the book and all that. But anyway, we should have this book done and ready probably first part of next year, and it's going to be called The Golden Era of Sign Design. And he's going to have a lot of these sketches in the color and the pencil drawings, stories, background stories. They're interviewing some of the employees from Beverly Sign Company that are left. We got a couple of interviews coming up next week. And we're going to put all these little side stories in there. And it's going to be a really interesting visual, inspirational book for people that want to learn sign design. And this is the last stop, because there's no other sketches after this. This is it. So I'm so happy I was able to actually get this into a book form, because if these boxes just sat here and we didn't do anything with them, what would happen if something would happen to me? They would probably wind up in a dumpster, at some point. But now they're going to live on. So that's what this project is basically all about.
Well, I remember seeing, I guess there was like a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter or something like that for that. Is that still going, or is that done? Or
well, we met our goal. I think the goal was $45,000, and I think now we're probably way over $50-some thousand. People are donating to the cause, and they're gonna actually buy a book.
So you can still get in on that, and I guess basically pre-order a book.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I hope I can do that. It looks like such a cool book.
Well, if nothing else, it's inspirational. If you ever get involved in doing some, from the way we learned it, that the book is the best solution today, because it's like a history book. Looking at it, so
yeah, that's really,
because it's like a history book. Looking at it, so
yeah, that's really cool. Well, kind of, I guess, a side note, we talked about, or you talked about how a group of you had, I guess, blended pinstriping and lettering together there in the area. And it kind of sounds like you guys self-taught yourselves on the pinstriping part of it.
Well, basically, in the late 60s, there was no videos, tutorials, any kind of thing you can see on social media. We had to learn by what we saw in vehicles. And I think Hot Rod Magazine probably had some small little black and white pictures of Von Dutch and had Big Daddy Roth back in the late 50s, early 60s. But it was hit or miss, so.
Right.
I think when the sign guys got a hold of this whole thing, and here I'm going to go back to drawing letters, we used the same strokes. We used the same practice pieces that we did with typography. And we instituted them into our pinstriping designs, and we stretched them, we bent them, we modified them, we put them together, and we inspired one another. I'll use a little bit of Tom's, and I'll use a little bit of Jim's, and they'll use a little bit of mine, and we kind of went back and forth. We created our own look, basically from this our sign background.
Would you say that there was much pinstriping in the Chicago area prior to that then, or?
It was very, very little. I would see a hot rod once in a while. It had a pinstriping on the trunk, or I'd see a little pinstriping, a couple lines. They had a lot of scallop work back in the 50s. Some of those cars had, and they did a little bit of pinstriping, but it was far and few between. And I think a lot of that pinstriping inspiration was coming here from the West Coast very slowly. And one of the guys that I used to see him do pinstriping, or have done a car or a race car once in a while, did a lot of work in California. And I think he learned a little bit of pinstriping when he was out there, and he came back to Chicago, did some race cars here, and added pinstriping to his finished lettering jobs on these race cars. And we just stood there, looked at it, and we had to change our shorts. I mean, it was so cool. I mean, what is this stuff? We got to learn how to do it. And one of the guys.
Do you remember his name or?
Oh yeah. Art Dexter.
Okay.
He was one of the guys that inspired me to do lettering and pinstriping back when I was just a teenager in high school. I'd see cars that he did. We'd go to the racetrack, the stock car tracks, and he would letter a lot of the cars there. And there was another guy called Papa Bear Becca. Papa Bear Becca he worked with Dexter at times. They had a business together. Papa Bear was a traditional sign painter. He used a maul stick. And he did finished sign work, very nice finished sign work, where Art Dexter was more loose, a cartoony type sign painter and pinstriper. But the two of them worked together. They contrasted one another's work really well. They could work together on a car, and you can tell that Papa Bear did that part of it, and Dexter did the other part of it. It was an art show. Every time he went to the racetrack, either the drag strip or the stock car track, you could go down in the pits and look at everything. You knew exactly who did what, And there was another fella that is part of our Brushmaster group. He's still around, called Ron Jelinek. I'd see he was right here where I lived, and probably 3-4 miles. He had a shop from my house, and I'd go to my grandfather's house, and I'd have my dad drop me off by his shop, and I'd just stand there and stare in his window and look at all his work. Never met him, but his work was so inspiring, and I thought, well, one of these days I'm going to run into this guy. And right before we started the Brushmasters, there was a big pinstriping event on the north side of Chicago here at some chicken place, and all these people from the West Coast were here, pinstripers and sign guys, and they were auctioning off all this stuff they were making. And there was a guy in the parking lot with this little display, with a long beard and a funny hat, and I walked up to him and I said, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm Ron Jelinek." I go, "Oh crap, I finally met you after I don't know how many years, 30, 40 years." So we got him on our board of directors here at the Brushmasters, and he's still very, very visible and working with us and being part of this whole group, and it's neat having somebody like that I've known all these years, known of anyway.
Right.
It's just more inspiration going. And now I'm inspiring him too. And we're just kind of going back and forth like we did back in the 60s. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. It's been an interesting journey.
I guess something else that I wanted to ask about, and then you've kind of touched on it just a little bit here and there. I know one book that was published by, is it Signcraft? And then I had a subscription to Signcraft before it went totally digital and all. You worked with them for quite a while, didn't you? Doing articles and whatnot, or?
I worked about 42 years, I think. I worked with Signcraft. I'm still doing some things with them. They've been taking some of the old articles that I read, and they've just modernized them and changed them a little bit, some of the wording and verbiage into today's world, and I help them modify that from time to time. It's not in every other month like it was before, but I'm still involved with them in different projects they work on from time to time. So it's been interesting too with them, because I've got to know a lot of people in the industry through Signcraft, and a lot of people know me, and through social media now they contact me and they have questions, and they just want to thank me sometimes or whatever I did and help them and so on and so forth. And it's been an interesting journey with the Signcraft people and that magazine all these years. It's been fun, a lot of fun. And I know how important it is to me when I saw things in other magazines like Signs of the Times when I was younger. And when I first got into the sign business, I went around trying to get information from the local sign painters. Nobody would talk to you. Nobody. You walk in their shop and they just put their brushes down and say, "What do you want?" I just don't want to learn how to do this. And he says, "No, get out." That's what they did. So when Ken Millar, I just talked about him, the first Signcraft magazine came out in 1980 or 81, I think it was. And Ken come up to me and he says, Bob, I want you to do something. And I thought, what does he want me to do? You never know with him. He's totally thinking out of the box all the time. He says, I want you to get involved with this new magazine called Signcraft. I go, what? What do you want me to do? I says, I want you to send some pictures in. I want you to help them. I had no clue what he was talking about, but I thought about it for a while, and I called up Signcraft. It was Tom McIntyre. 3-4 months later, and we talked, and he talked me into just sending some pictures into my work, explaining what I did, why I did it, and that's all I needed to do. This short article, I'd been doing that for 42 years. I never looked back, and people tell me I've really helped them a lot. And I'm glad of that. I'm glad people were reading it, people understood it, and maybe it helped them or so down along the way in some way or another. I don't know, but that's what I hear. So I guess Ken pushed me into something I never would have done by my own, and God bless the man. We've brought this to another level, helping people out in places where they don't have other sign painters to learn from, or whatever you want to say, how that ever works. I don't know. There's a lot of places like that, I guess, Well,
that's been, for me, magazine articles like that, books and stuff, when I can find them and get a hold of them and all, that's pretty much, as far as sign painting stuff's concerned, that's been my schooling.
Sure.
And I'm sure that's the case for a lot of people. I would imagine so. Probably some of them are listening to this podcast right now, I'm sure, But so thank you. Oh yeah, you're welcome. It's been fun,
Yeah, and Bob, I actually put on the TV here is a video that you put out a while back for Show Card. I found it on YouTube. It's a whole hour. I think it's an hour and 20 minutes. The Practical Show Card by Bob Behounek.
Yeah, that was a Ken Millar production, Sign Knowledge. We did that in a garage near his house one day, and we got the whole thing together. And it was funny because there wasn't a lot of snow card work going on. And then once we did that video, the whole show card industry just tanked. Like 3 years later, it just totally disappeared, just evaporated off the planet. The computers were coming out, and the show card writers were getting less and less and less, and it just kind of went away. And I think it was probably 7 or 8 years ago, maybe longer. A girl named Shelby Rottenheimer, I think was her name. She asked me if she could digitize that and put it on YouTube. I said, sure, fine, that's no problem. So she did. And that's why you're able to see that, because she got that together. So I can say I've actually watched that probably twice.
I think it's cool because show cards are not really being used so much anymore, but it's still really fun and interesting to see how you control the brush, which way you do the strokes, I think, what are they called? The serifs, how you connect those. I'm brand new at even trying to understand any of this stuff for lettering, with lettering. So I just got my first Speedball lettering book. I found a copy. I'm unsure. I think it's like the 22nd edition on eBay. So I'm just now learning these terms and such. So it's actually, watching this video kind of solidifies some of the things that I've been reading.
Well, the interesting thing about that video is I'm using the water-based medium to do show cards, but I use the same process with one shot. It's a different brush and a different paint, but it's the same way of doing it. So it's good if people want to learn how to letter. You don't have to look at the water part of it, but think about it as being paint, any kind of paint. It's the same process. So there's vibe. How can I say this? It's I don't even know the word here. It's still good. It's still good to see it because you can learn from it. Yeah, if you're a visual learner,
for sure. Yeah. I think we'd be thinking like it translates. I think it translates.
Right. It translates to another, different medium for sure. Absolutely.
would the paint for that then, the water-based paint, would it be tempera or gouache or?
Well, there was a company called Rich Art, Show Card Color. I think Rich Art's still in business. They make paint for window splashes, but they stopped making the Show Card Color. Oh, I bet it was 25, 30 years ago now.
I think they might have quit making Windows splash paint, if I remember correctly.
Well, that's possible. Yeah, a lot of that's going away. I hear that some of the poster color, too, that One Shot was making isn't going to be made either. So I don't know what the paper sign people are going to wind up using. But, yeah, it's a shame, really, because that's a big part of our business. Maybe it's just all going away to the printed medium now. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, but there's a lot of people out there that still want to learn how to hand letter. There really is. And I just wish that we still had our apprentice programs to send these people to so they can learn it from the ground up. But there's only one school that I know of, and that is LA Trade Tech in Los Angeles. They still have a sign program there. The instructor just passed away here about a year or so ago.
Yeah, it was Doc Guthrie.
Doc, yep. I knew Doc Guthrie real well. He was a good guy.
Oh, it looks like people are keeping that program around, though.
Yeah, he had a helper. I don't know his name, but I think he's still running the classes as Doc did. So that's good. But you have to live in Los Angeles County, I think, to go to that school.
Right.
You have to move there. So it's but those people that are really dedicated to it, I know they go there and they take those classes and they learn. So that's good.
Well, I see that there's people that are traveling around and doing classes in their own deal. I mean, what was it? I watched the deal the other day that Mike Myers is going around right now from town to town doing classes. Mm-hmm. Have you yourself ever taught classes, or?
Most of the classes that I have been involved in the last 25 years have been design-based classes. I go around teaching the golden era of sign design, just like the Beverly look, right. creating signage through that type of design process. I haven't done anything since I went to Oslo, Norway. It was a 2017 letterhead meet. I ran a class there, and I was supposed to go back to Finland, I think, a couple of years later, and then the pandemic hit, and
right.
And I lost my wife, and I just wasn't feeling like traveling overseas to do too much or anything. So, but every once in a while, I'll do a little tiny class or a little impromptu class with some people, just to get get them understanding the process and how to come up with the design and all that. But there wasn't a lot of people interested. There really wasn't. I'm really surprised that. Again, it takes a lot of time, a lot of dedicated practice to practice drawing the type, and then putting designs together. And one group of people told me, a younger group of people, right after that Sign Painter movie came out, that most of the sign work they get to paint is already designed by somebody else at some studio somewhere. They just take it, blow it up, and paint it. They don't do a lot of design work themselves. So that's sad, because the sign painters understand outdoor advertising probably better than any design studio does. Generally, give or take, the sign people, that's what they did all their lives. They made things readable. You can read things in 2 to 3 seconds. You're down the road and everybody's happy. But that's what they told me. And that made me kind of sad, because they never get a chance to actually do a design for anybody. They never learned that process. So, but what are you going to do? That's just progress we're in right now. That's the way it is.
I can see that. I mean, the situation that I'm in, I don't do a whole lot of sign stuff. I don't even know if I would really consider myself much of a sign painter, but when I get people that do ask about it, I've had a graphic designer, design this, or I think that's where they think of, is that somebody with computer software has to do the design part, but it's not something that can be done by hand.
It's kind of funny too, because back in the days right before the computer came out, the 70s, 80s, a lot of the sign people here in Chicago that I talk about from our sign prints program, we had our own businesses, and we were we were almost to the point where we had a design studio going on with our sign shop studio at the same time. People would come in and they'd want us to design a logo for them, or their truck lettering, and or their billboard, or their fascia signage, and then we'd produce artwork for their business cards, their stationery, their shirts, their hats, their underwear, whatever they wanted to put something on. we had actually had that going for quite a while, and we were getting more money for the design up front, not just do the lettering job on the truck. And once this computer thing hit, everybody got one. It just progressed from one thing to another, and it took that work right away from whatever we tried to maintain at those early days before the computer came out. And I felt so bad about that. Where I worked, if people still trusted us, they came in and they had me do some design work and got the whole process together at a disk or whatever. But that has gone away a lot more now than back then. It's almost gone, so it's sad. It's sad to say, but when you can buy a real high-end technology to do all this type of work, with all these little gadgets and all those things they call the apps, and all the little design things you can come up with some pretty interesting logos just from that type of programs and all that. But it's still not hand designed.
Right.
Those people who want hand design, like I said before, they'll still find people like me to do it for them.
I had a job. It was a while back. It was designing some door lettering, and I had sketched some stuff out, sent it back to the customer. They weren't really on board with it. And we kind of did that back and forth for a while. And finally, they took out their phone and an app that they had and designed something on that with, plug and play kind of stuff.
Right.
And they're like, this is what we want, which to me, from my perspective, it was very much about the image and had nothing to do with advertisement for the company. But
Right.
I see a lot of people that's where their mindset is, and then on top of it, that ability to just be able to pick up your phone and do it. And,
I think the general public probably makes the mistake, just like a lot of the design studios do, not realizing that outdoor advertising is totally different than business card advertising. Business card you can look at for hours, but a sign that's outside, or a truck, has to be understood in just seconds.
right.
And if they never get that education from people like us, they're never going to know that, and they're going to produce whatever they want to produce from their own computer programs and put it out there, and it's going to fail. How many businesses have failed because their signage just didn't meet that parameter? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And my job in my shop I worked in for all these years, first thing was to educate every client that walked in to this fact. They would bring in, like you were saying, their own little thing that they've done, or their daughter or their granddaughter, somebody did for them. And they tell me, I want a sign like this. And then I would look at it and I say, well, yeah, we could do this and maybe modify that. No, I want it just like this. And then I would very carefully tell them, I says, well, listen, if you are open for me to draw up a different idea that I think would work better, I would be happy to do that for you. I'll make one of your design and I'll make one of this design, and we can look at them together, and we can kind of come up with a balance of maybe yours and mine, or yours or mine. It's okay, fine. No, 8 times out of 10 people will let me do that. The other 2 won't. They'll just want it done, and away they go. And 3 years later, they come back, this didn't work. But anyway, once I did these designs, I would find out how much distance there was from where you're going to see the sign to where the sign is. Then scale-wise, I'd mark off on the floor. Okay, I'm back 30 feet now. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to only give you 2 seconds. And you tell me if you can understand it. I show them real quick, put it down. I said, could you see that? Yeah. Okay, now here's the other one. This is one you wanted. Show it up for 2 seconds, bring it down. I said, which one could you read and understand? And they stand there and smile at me, yours. So Yeah, a lot of this is education, and that's what I felt I had to do for these people. And once you do this with your clients, they understand that you're looking after their needs. You're not just producing something they want because it looks cool, or their granddaughter did it, or their brother did it, or somebody. I'm looking after their advertising needs and getting that information to the public. Because I don't know about where you are, but in Chicago here, there's so much distractions with cars and other signs and trucks. You can't see something really well, real quick. I mean, there's too much stuff going on. So it even makes the visibility even like a second or a second and a half. That's all you got, maybe at the most. So it has to be very, very clear and very understandable. And I am so glad for my mentors teaching me all these principles back in the late 60s, because I had no idea that I'm going to be using this stuff in 2023 still. It's just an amazing journey learning these processes and educating the people, general public. I still like doing that. I'll stop someday in a restaurant, start talking. People will say, "Well, how you doing?" And I say, "Hey, your sign out there, where'd you get that done?" And blah blah blah. And I said, speeding out here is 50 miles an hour. I says, you can't really read that sign really well. What do you mean you can't read? I says, come on out, we'll look at it. And we talking a little bit here and there, and before you know it, he's ordered a new sign. But that's my retired or tired job now, to go around and just talk to people, and they listen to me. So that's a good thing, So,
well, I think that still shows that you're very passionate about what you do, and I think deep down inside you are an educator,
mm-hmm.
and I think that might be a way for you to be able to pass down your knowledge, even in a casual situation. I think that's great.
I think there's even a need for a workbook for that too, for educating clients. It's never been touched on in the sign business, as far as I know. I've never read anything anywhere in some publication about that subject.
I think it's a good idea. Maybe that could be another part of your retired
Yeah, I gotta think about that one. But yeah, it's really true. I should have a workshop on it just to tell people how to educate people for this. But
I think even with pinstriping, there's kind of a need to understand that as well. That I'm still new at all of it. So, but even when I'm speaking to somebody that wants pinstriping done, I'm still have to struggle on how to explain to them what would look good and accent the situation without it being overboard, or I think you also have to educate them on that, because I do a lot of just artwork, and sometimes folks show me my own artwork and they say, hey, how about something like this? But that's not really going to translate well on a vehicle, because I'm doing this as a kind of like a wow piece, right? Everything I do with art is just kind of to wow, to have fun with, but it's not going to translate the same on a vehicle generally. No,
it's not. And I think the same principles hold true to pinstriping as they do signage.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, like I mentioned before, if you letter the truck, the pinstriping is definitely secondary.
Yes.
But if there's no lettering on the truck or the car or whatever it is, the pinstriping is your main focus.
Yes, sir.
And it depends on how visible they want this pinstriping to be. Do you want to see the car first, or the truck first, or do you want to see the pinstriping first? So you have to go into the contrast of the reflectability of each color to look good on this vehicle. And if once you explain this to people, they go, oh yeah, because people want white on blue, dark blue. Well, I said, you're going to see this stripe from 40 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see a car. That kind of thing. That's education. So those principles are very, very similar to both mediums.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we're all trying to find our way in this modern era with an analog form, right?
Right.
And,
Right.
I don't, I know there's a question that Jack likes to ask sometime is where do you see it progressing upward? How do you see this, both these art forms kind of progressing? Do you feel like they're moving in a positive direction?
I do. I've been involved with a lot of the younger people here with the Brushmaster group in the last 16, 17 years, in Milwaukee for the last 20 years. There's a lot of younger people that have come up and they're very interested because they see us actually painting at these shows and they're like, how do you learn how to do this? Yeah. So, it's a slow process. You kind of educate them to what you're doing and all that. And now we're running classes for pinstriping here in the Chicago area. We've been doing that for quite a while. Just getting people's fingers dirty, getting them to understand design and brush usage and all that. But there's a huge amount of young people in this area, in the Milwaukee and Chicago area that I know of that have started here in the last 20 years, and they've become very good at it. And that is a positive for answer your question for the pinstriping end of it. Sign business here, the sign people, there's a lot of younger people that are doing a lot of sign work, a lot of hand-painted sign work in the upper Midwest here that we didn't have before. The sign movie kind of pushed them over the edge. They saw this movie and they thought, "Oh, I can do that." There's one lady in Michigan here that I've known for the last few years. She was an art teacher, and she just got fed up with it. She just walked away and started a sign business. Now her and her friend are going around painting signs everywhere all over Southwest Michigan, and they're doing really well. They're having a blast.
That's awesome.
So that's just one case. Now there's a lot more I know of in the city, especially in Chicago proper. Younger people, they like gold leaf work, mm-hmm. and they do gold leaf windows. And I'm totally blown away because in our apprentice program, the last thing you learned after you learned everything else the proper way was gold leafing on glass, reverse glass gilding. But they do that the first thing they wanted to do is that. They've done it before to do anything else. And they're doing really well at it. There's people all over Chicago putting these beautiful gold leaf windows up all around town. You go down there now and it's like, whoa, where's this coming from? So that is perpetuating itself. I see great things coming in the sign business here, especially in this city for that. Now they want to learn how to do regular commercial sign painting now. They want to branch off into the everyday sign work. That's great. Again, there's no school here. There's no school. So they have to learn on YouTube and, whatever they can find on social media, and they're learning. They're picking it all up. They're learning it all. Maybe it's a faster process, seeing it visually on screen like that. We didn't have that when I was coming up through this trade, and they're learning it quicker. And it doesn't take 5 years now. It takes maybe 2 years or 3 years to learn just basics. So I see that as a positive too. I see it good. I mean, there's a lot of work out there for everybody. I really believe that. I myself, I'm old, and there are people are coming to me for all this stuff they want done, and I want to drive off in the sunset one of these days. I'm not going to be able to because of this. You know what I mean? It's more now than it was before. So yeah, I do. It's a positive. I see good things coming down the road. I really do.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And, I think that's, again, one of the reasons Jack had mentioned this, trying to do this podcast, is to try to understand not only folks' pasts and what they did to get to this point, but also their mindset on, where things might be heading towards the future. So,
Sure.
Jack, did you have any other questions that you had in mind for Bob here?
No, not that I can think of. Maybe we should ask our final question we usually ask.
Yeah, Bob, we're getting towards the end here, so we don't take up too much of your time. But
it's been great. It's been a lot of fun just rehashing all these memories and stuff. It's been a great career.
Oh, we love it, man.
Go ahead.
We're here for it. But here is the final question that we like to ask everybody that comes on the show is if there is one particular story that is memorable, fun, funny, scary, or something that happened to you along your travels that you'd like to share with the listeners.
Yeah, there sure is. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. I'll tell you from the beginning.
All right.
Again, I'm always there at the shop to greet customers as they walk in the front door, and kind of get them to tell me what they want and get me some information of a basic format of what they're trying to do, and so on and so forth. Well, one day I get a message from the shop, says I got to come to the office. There's a young lady that come here to talk to me about lettering her van, her cargo van. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the ladies were always interesting, and they're always fun to talk to because they're so emotional. They use their hands, they're talking, and they're all excited about what they're going to do. And so I walk in the office, and there's this beautiful young lady standing there, and I asked her. I says, "How can I help you?" "Oh, I just bought this brand new it was a GMC cargo van. It's white. I own a flower shop. I want to put a big flower on there and put some lettering and make it look kind of old and cool and fun and blah, blah, blah." So I went through my whole process of telling her what I just told you guys in the last hour and a quarter of how you go about doing all this. Mm-hmm. I says, "Well, do you have a logo of some kind?" "Oh, yeah, I do. I says, "Well, can you get me a copy of the logo and maybe I can make a design for you and you can look at it and you can decide if you want to change it or make it the way I drew it or whatever, so on and so forth." "Oh, yeah, sure." So I'm thinking, okay, she's going to go in her car or go in her purse and pull this out and show it to me. I says, "Well, you don't have a copy?" "Oh, no, I got it. And I'm standing there looking at her, and she undoes her blue jeans and pulls her pants down, her underwear down to her halfway to her knees. She's got this rose tattooed right on her side of her leg, right by her crotch. And there's this long period of silence. And I'm standing there looking at her. I go, "Can I take a picture of that?" and the secretary, I heard a thump. She fell off her chair. So I never took the picture. I had a mental vision of what I saw.
Yeah, clearly.
We actually did the job. She loved it, and I mean, she was one of our good customers for many years after that. But I never ever had that opportunity to get a logo like she had. Oh, that was something else. I'll never forget that. That was fun. But yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
The logo of the lifetime.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So we appreciate it. Well, we just want, I just want to say your energy is contagious, man. I'm more hyped up talking to you to sling some paint, and I always love seeing your work.
Well, thank you. It's been a really, really honor to be on this podcast with you guys. I always figured myself more of a sign guy than a pinstriper, but somehow I blended it all together and worked it together, and it's all one artwork now, not just two. So
yeah,
thank you.
I think it's like one arm and another arm to the same body. I think in the end,
right.
The more we talk to pinstripers, there is it's you can't really do pinstriping without sign painting, and sign painting kind of goes hand in hand. In the end, there's going to be some filigree usually that goes along the way with it.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. You can't have a truck without some pinstriping on it. That's the way I look at it,
Yeah, for sure.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully that helps some people with what I've said.
Yeah, we appreciate your time, Bob, and we thank you very, very much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Ready? Yeah, ready. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.